Oh, yeah. Perfect. Let's see. Yeah, see if you. Ann, can you hear me in there now? All right. I'll try not to blast your eardrums. All right, Gail Rose. All right, let's get this all started. Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and Chag Sameach. We're so glad to have you with us on this lovely summer-feeling evening. And we're going to celebrate not only Shabbat, but we're celebrating Shavuot. Technically, this is Erev Day 2 of Shavuot, but for us, this is the Shavuot celebration. So we're going to have an enhanced Shabbat service tonight. And I see Mrs. Rose is stretching over here, so that's good. You got to be limber. You got to be limber to. That's right.
Everybody should stretch because everybody's going to sing.
That's right. That sounds good. Well, we're gonna start by singing Shir Adonai Kol Haaretz, Shir Adonai Shir Chadash. We sing a new song unto God.
Shiru Ladonai, Shiru Shir Chadash, Shiru Ladonai, Kol Haaretz. Please join me. Shiru Ladonai, Shiru Shir Chadash, Shiru Ladonai, Kol Haaretz. That was so good. Do it again. Shiru Ladonai, Shiru Shir Chadash, Shiru Adonai Kol Ha'am. Last time louder. Shiru Adonai, Shiru Shir Chadash, Shiru Adonai Kol Haaretz, Shiru Adonai Baruch Shemo, Basru miyom liyom Yeshuato with me. Shiru Adonai Baruch Shemo. Basru miyom liyon, Yeshuato, the beginning. Shiru Adonai, Shiru Shir Chadash, Shiru Adonai, Kol Ha'am, louder. Shiru Adonai, Shiru Shir Chadash, Shiru Adonai, Kol Ha'am, last time. Shiru Adonai, Shiru Shir Chadash, Shiru Adonai, Kol Haaretz.
Beautiful way to begin our service this evening. And since we are technically in the middle of the Chag, we're going to do a candle lighting just for Shabbat, but we'll also have Shavuot in our thoughts. And should we invite Ange? You wanna? All right, Angie's going to light some Shabbat candles for us. Resident Jew. and we'll appreciate that. Maybe we're all resident Jews in some way. That's fair. Maybe we'll all sing together if you lead us. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat and Shavuot. Beautiful. Shabbat Shalom. Thanks, Ange. Let's read together on page 3 if you have a Siddur, or up here on the screen. O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and into our lives. In a moment, we're going to sing Lecha Dodi, but before we do that, maybe Nate can just play some pretty stuff for a few moments so that we can have an opportunity to take a breath and maybe let go of some of the stress that accumulated upon your shoulders in this past week. Welcome in a little bit of Shabbat peace, of Shabbat love, Shabbat joy, Shabbat holiness. Let's take just a few moments to do that. rise and face the entrance to the room.
Erev Shalom, Teret Ba'ala, Gam Simcha U'V'Tzochela, Togemunei Am Segula, Bo'ichala,
Hadodi, Likrat Likrakala, Penei Penei Shabbat Nekamela. L'chala Hadodi, Likrat Likrakala, Penei Penei Shabbat Nekamela. L'chala Hadodi, Likrat Likrakala, Penei Penei Shabbat Nekamela.
Surprise ending. L'chala Hadodi, Likrat Likrakala, Penei Penei Shabbat Nekabela.
That was lovely. You may be seated. Let's read together on page 27 with the joy of that prayer swirling around us here. Teach me, O God, a blessing, a prayer, on the mystery of a withered leaf, on ripened fruit so fair, on the freedom to see, to sense, to breathe, to know, to hope, to despair. Teach my lips a blessing, a hymn of praise. As each morning and night you renew your days, lest my day be today as the one before, lest routine set my ways. We'll invite everyone to rise again for the Baruch Hu on page 28. May be seated. On page 30, we'll start in the Hebrew and then move to the English in the second half of the page. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chochma poteach she'arim, uvitvuna mishane itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umisader et hakochavim, b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono. You are the creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night, distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzvaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings down the evening. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim.
at yourself, there's nothing to say. Stop all the chatter that gets in the way and listen, listen to our God. When the wind and the thunder finally disappear, there's still a voice that you will hear if you listen, listen to our God. You can hear it from the top of the highest hill, or from the valley below. It can come from the edge of the universe. It can come from within your soul. Close your eyes and listen.
Please rise. Shem kavod malachuto leolam vaed. Listen, listen to our God. Listen, listen to our God. May be seated. And since this is the holiday of Shavuot, where we're celebrating the receiving and the giving of Torah, we'll join together in chanting a piece that is cut and paste directly from our Torah scroll, Ve'ahavta, on page 36, or up here on the screen. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavecha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadavarim ha'eleh asher anochi mitzavacha hayom alevavecha v'shinatam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech v'shokbecha uv'kumecha uv'shartam la'od al yadecha v'hayu latotafot b'einecha uv'kaftam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha Leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'hitem kedoshim lelohechem Ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim v'hiot lahem l'Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem. We're going to turn in just a moment to the Michamocha, and we want to ask if anybody has a simcha that you'd like to share, something exciting that happened perhaps in the past week or weeks. Anybody have something they'd like to share? Okay, Ani, all right, I'm coming around.
First one is want everyone to know Carol moved here from New Jersey early in March, and this is the first time we're coming to services. And Alice and Noah are celebrating their first wedding anniversary.
This weekend, right? Yeah.
Our granddaughter Leah graduated from Kent State School of Nursing.
Yay! Yay to Leah! That's great. That is terrific. Yes. All right.
Our newest granddaughter was born on May 3rd in Portland, and Ken and I were able to be out there to take care of Sammy while Jody was born.
That's terrific. Yay! Terrific.
Our granddaughter graduated last week from Duke University, summa cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa, and everything else that you could imagine. She is hoping to take a gap year and then go to medical school.
Can't believe you graduated from college. That's crazy. Yes, yes.
I got to go hear my first Harmony Project concert where some people in this room sang as part of the chorus.
I keep hearing about this Harmony Project. I think I need to get over there. Anybody else? These are lovely simchas, lovely smachot. Let's join together in singing Mi Chamocha so we can continue celebrating, saying, Who is like you, O God? We were all over the
Sorry about my clapping.
2 and 4. That was great. That was terrific.
1 and 3.
We're getting in the
5
mood.
and 8.
That's right. We're getting in the mood for prayer. You can find Vishamru, this prayer where we say thank you, God, for giving us this commandment of observing Shabbat. You can find that on page 44 or up here on the screen. Join together in singing.
Shabbat,
We're going to turn in just a moment to page 46 for the Amidah. We'll do the first few blessings together, the Avot and Givurot and the Kiddushah together, and then we'll join in just a few moments of some silent and private meditation, and we'll invite everyone, if you're able, to please rise.
Adonai Safetai Tiftaku
Ufi Agitehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai,
Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avoteinu ve'Imoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Ha'gibor v'Hanara, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Hasdei Avot v'Imahot, U'mevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, L'ma'an Shemo V'Ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Ve'ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Michayei HaKol Atarav Le'Hoshia, V'chakel Hayim B'chesed, Michayei HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim V'rofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Ba'givurot, Umido Melech, Melech Memit, Umekayem, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman hatalach hayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mehayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kedoshim b'chol yom yahalu chasela. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh. Amen. You may be seated and take just a few moments for some private reflection, either using the words in your Siddur on pages 54 through 60, or whatever words are in your heart on this evening.
Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. As we have mentioned throughout the service this evening, today is a special Jewish holiday called Shavuot. Like many Jewish holidays, Shavuot has two main aspects to it: the agricultural aspect and the kind of spiritual/historical aspect. Agriculturally, Shavuot commemorates the time when the first fruits, the bikurim, were harvested and brought to the temple as part of the sacrificial system. Having just planted our vegetable garden this past Monday, we are not seeing any first fruits yet. I don't know if you are. Maybe you had an earlier garden than I. But in Israel, the season is way ahead of us. As is the case with a number of Jewish holidays, there was a concern that if it were only an agricultural holiday, that it may eventually be forgotten. So there's also a spiritual component to this holiday, and that is the commemoration of God giving the Torah to the people at Mount Sinai. During Shavuot, we remember that blockbuster scene at Mount Sinai with thunder and lightning and God passing the Torah to the Jewish people. Recently, I was working with a bat mitzvah student, and she asked me, who really wrote the Torah? We talked about the different ideas about authorship of the Torah, and when I described the biblical scene of the Israelites at the foot of Mount Sinai, she was, shall we say, skeptical. Could that scene have really happened? Did Moses really go up the mountain and come back after a false start, come back with the Torah from God? It reminded me, this conversation, of a huge controversy that appeared in the Jewish world about 20 years ago. You may remember this, that there's a very famous rabbi named David Wolpe. He's a conservative rabbi in Los Angeles, a giant synagogue there, and he gave a series of sermons arguing that it is unlikely that many of the stories in the Torah happen the way that they were described, that they are described. I remember as a young rabbinical student as an intern at Temple Beth Shalom in Cincinnati, and I remember people being extremely upset hearing a rabbi make these comments. If it would have happened today, perhaps Rabbi Wolpe would be canceled, who knows. But in the sermon series, Wolpe preached to his large conservative congregation that the Exodus narrative in the Bible most likely did not happen in the way it was described, and that there's no archaeological evidence that a mass exodus from Egypt ever happened at all. The rabbi argued to the congregation that it doesn't matter whether or not the Exodus really happened exactly as it's portrayed in the Torah. What mattered, he argued, was the story of the Exodus that lives within each of us. He said, standing at the Passover Seder, I see in my mind's eye the Israelites marching out of Egypt, the miracles at the sea, the pillar of fire leading them through the fearful night. I feel an enormous gratitude to God. For although we cannot know exactly how God has saved our people, we have been saved. Despite unimaginable odds and opposition, the Jewish people have seen nation after nation buried under the debris of history, while our nation lives. Here is where archaeology, history, scholarship, and scripture all meet. Am Yisrael Chai, the nation of Israel remains alive. Well, with this sermon that became controversial in part due to a front-page story about it in the Los Angeles Times, yikes, Rabbi Wolpe got the entire country talking and thinking and reflecting about what is Torah. What does Torah mean to us? How does it relate to our lives? How can we still find God in a Torah that sometimes feels so distant from our world? Many religiously liberal Jews, Reform, Conservative, Reconstructionist Jews, believe that the Torah is a work of divinely inspired human beings. The most common theory today among Jewish and Christian scholars is that the Torah's development is called the documentary hypothesis. This is the kind of leading argument in scholarship about how the Torah came about. It argues that the Torah was composed of several ancient sources, documents that were written by various unknown authors. Later, these documents were combined and edited. In rabbinical school, we learned the term redactor. That was the master editor. And that is the form that we have today, according to this theory. Yes, of course, there are many Reform Jews who do believe that the Torah was written by God and given directly to the Israelite people, as our text tells us. And there are also many Jews
to whom the authorship of the Torah isn't as important as is the enduring message of its words. And here we are, some, 3,000 or so years after the Torah came to be. Even that date is a little bit suspect. And we're still gleaning comfort and meaning from its ancient words. I think that's pretty remarkable. So I thought on this holiday of Shavuot, we could spend just a few moments discussing some reasons why this beautiful and troubling and foundational and ancient text is still relevant in our lives, and why we should still have this holiday to celebrate it. One reason that we should continue making this Torah a priority in our lives is that it preserves our ancient history as the source of many of our traditions and practices. Generations of people like us have read these same words time and time again. Rabbi Janet Martyr writes, reading the Torah is like going backwards in time. It's like opening a window to our distant world of our ancestors. It's as if we're digging through an archaeological treasure, moving layer by layer towards its beginnings. The Torah is our story, and it helps us understand who we are as a people. In a few moments, we're going to read just a little bit of the Torah from Shirat Hayam, from the Song of Sea, the song of celebration that the Israelites sang as they emerged as a people for the first time after freeing slavery. By the way, it should be noted that it's traditional to read from the Ten Commandments on Shavuot, but since we are celebrating the very essence of who we are as a people, I thought it might be fitting to read the moment when our peoplehood began as we crossed the sea. Also, it's more fun to read and it's pretty. And this evening, we will be reading the story from our beloved Holocaust scroll. You may remember the scroll that came to our congregation via Jim Feibel of blessed memory in 1979 on permanent loan from the Westminster Torah Trust. More than 1,500 Torah scrolls were saved from communities that perished during the Holocaust. These scrolls are now all over the world in congregations, and they are still used today to read our people's story. Our Torah scroll is from the Pinkas Synagogue in Prague. It is thought that the scroll was written in the early 1800s. I've heard the year 1803 is discussed in the past. Our scroll has seen great tragedy and sacrifice and bloodshed, and you'll actually see in the Shirat Hayam there are a couple of specks that certainly could be blood in there. Yet for the last 43 years, it has been here in our congregation. And when we open that scroll and we chant those words, those exact same words in the same way that so many of our ancestors have chanted it, it is as if we are bringing to life in this very room the people of that Pinkas synagogue and so many others who perished. These are the same words they read, the same scroll they lovingly cared for, full of traditions and stories that bind us throughout space and time. And it just doesn't get a lot more precious than that. I think another reason that we should continue our celebration of Shavuot is that powerful human story that the Torah holds. Throughout each part of the book of the Torah, we read about human struggles, a people struggling with enemies, a people struggling with God, people struggling with ourselves. The text is full of those huge blockbuster scenes we talked about a few moments ago, and also Noah and the flood, the creation story, and Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, Joseph torn away from his family and their tearful reunion a little bit later on after a mystery unravels, the Israelites oppressed in slavery, the breathtaking Exodus scene at the Sea of Reeds, noble leaders, time and time again, who are imperfect, just like we are, showing us that in each of these stories, we reside. Emotional highs and lows, humor, courage, love, jealousy, despair, hope, life renewed. It's got it all. We are in this scroll. And we can be better versions of ourselves. We can learn about who we are and who we aspire to be from seeing ourselves in its narrative. Finally, we must cherish and celebrate the Torah because throughout it and within it, we can truly encounter a sense of God and of godliness and the divine spirit in each of us. In that same piece from earlier, Rabbi Janet Martyr wrote, "I believe that the Torah was composed by human beings who were struggling to understand what God requires of us. In these ancient stories and teachings, they recorded their insights and inspirations, and so God's voice is heard in the text, shining through the words of fallible people who created it. Embedded in all the material here are jewels of incredible beauty, ethical imperatives that still speak to us today, to our deepest truths. And there are so many, and here are some of the famous ones. Justice, justice shall you pursue. You shall not stand by while your neighbor bleeds. Do not harden your heart and shut your hand against the needy. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. Do not hate your fellow man in your heart. Love your neighbor as yourself. Love the stranger, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. Rise up before the aged. Do not put a stumbling block before the blind. Honor Shabbat and keep it holy. In the image of God, each and every single one of us is created with that spark of the divine within. You shall be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy. Choose life so that you and your children shall live. There are so many ways for us to continue to connect with Torah in our lives and to make it our own. You don't need to know Hebrew. You can read it in the English with some terrific commentaries. There are podcasts and live streams, and we have a here and there Shabbat morning Torah study on Zoom, adult education classes, as well as our text-driven Melton classes that will resume in the fall. There's so many ways to connect. So may Shavuot inspire us to dive a little bit deeper into our text, to help us connect with Jews throughout time and event who have studied the same words. May we find renewal and beauty in the ancient texts and lessons to continue guiding us on our paths towards righteousness. And may each of us find within these holy scrolls the divine spark of God. It is a tree of life to those who hold it fast, and all of its supporters are happy. We're going to continue with just that, as I mentioned, that brief reading of the Torah. And I thought if there aren't that many of us here tonight, although more than I anticipated, yay, thank you for being here. So if you would like to come up onto the bima and to kind of see the Torah up close and personal, why don't we do that? I'm going to pull this back a little bit so we have room for everyone. And we'll ask everyone to please rise. And if you're comfortable coming up to the bima, come up. You can help take the Torah from the ark. Maybe we'll do a little hakafah, and then we'll end up back over here. And you can see the Torah up close and personal. Thank you, guys. Am I singing Kamocha?
Ein kamocha b'Elokim Adonai, v'ein k'ma'asecha, malachutecha malachu kol olamim, u'memchatecha b'chol dor v'hador. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai yimlok le'olam va'ed, Adonai os le'amo yitain, Adonai yivarech et hamo b'shalom.
Avod Godel Eloheinu Udnu Chavod La Torah. Let's sing Shema together.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Gadol Shemo.
Galul Adonai Yitzi, V'neromema Shemo Yadav. Somebody want to carry the Torah around?
Adonai Chazadu, Chazadu, V'hamdiveretz, V'hamdeita, V'hamon, Ki chol b'shamayim u'va'aretz, Ki chol b'shamayim u'va'aretz, Lecha Adonai hamlacha, V'hamid na'aseh lecho lerosh. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Hai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Hai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Hai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Hai. Od Avinu, Hai. Od Avinu, Hai. Od Avinu, Od Avinu, Od Avinu, Hai. Od Avinu, Hai. Od Avinu, Hai. Od Avinu, Od Avinu, Od Avinu, Hai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Hai.
Avinu Chai. Od Avinu. You guys can gather around here if you want. Od Avinu, Od Avinu, Od Avinu Chai. Od Avinu Chai. Od Avinu Chai. Od Avinu, Od Avinu, Od Avinu Chai. Anybody else want to come up? It won't bite the Torah. And there are chairs back here if you want to get it. Otherwise, if not, you can be seated. And this is the Torah scroll I was talking about earlier from Prague. And what I was mentioning about is, you can kind of see. I don't know for sure what these stains are, but you can see this is not a kosher Torah scroll, and it has been purposefully left unkosher so that it reflects its history and where it's been. And you can see this is not a standard Torah scroll. So generally Torah scrolls have pretty standard margins, and for the most part, I mean, there are some bigger and smaller fonts, but this one is much wider than the others. And let me hold it up so you guys in the congregation can just see it, and then we'll chant it in a moment. This is the only Torah scroll I can really do this well on. But you can kind of see, this is really Nick's job. I don't mean to be taking it.
You're doing fine.
Nick is the go-to on Saturday mornings if we don't have a Torah lifter. But you can see that the columns are pretty wide, and you can see this Shirat Hayam, this Song of the Sea, right in the middle of our reading here. And I don't know that anybody else thinks this, but when I look at this, I think of this. I think this looks like the parting sea. I think that this middle text here looks like the Israelites parting, just kind of visually. The Israelites going through. So why don't we read this, and we'll do one big congregational one big congregational bracha together if we want. So on page 250 in your books, you can find this, or you guys who are up here, you can look at the card. And why don't you guys do the blessing, and I'll be the congregation. Ready? Say 1, 2, 3. Baruch Hu Adonai Hamvorach, Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam, Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim, V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. By the way, you're going to hear the kind of normal. The Torah trope we do here is called Binder trope. You'll hear that mixed in with some major notes. And in the Song of the Sea, that major kind of tune is used whenever there's a line with God's name in it. Here's how it sounds. Az yashir Moshe u'vnei Yisrael et hashira hazo l'Adonai v'yomru le'mor ahashira l'Adonai ki ga'oga sus v'rochvo rama vayam Ozi v'zimrad ya v'hili lishua ze'eli v'anvehu Elohei avi v'romamenhu Adonai ish milchama Adonai tzavao Adonai shemo. This is calling God a man of war, which is always a fun thing to talk about at another time. Merkvod paro, thank you paro v'yachalom yarav ayam umivchar shloshav tuvu v'yam suf Techomod yachas yumu yardu b'mitzolot kamo aven Yamincha Adonai nedari b'koach Yamincha Adonai tiratz oyev Uvarov goncha ticharos kamecha Tishalach haronecha yochle mokakash Uveruach apecha nermu maim Nitzvu kamo ned nozlin Kafu techomot belev yam Amar oyev erdof asig Achalak shalal torishemo nafshi arik harvi torishemo yadi Nefshacha v'ruchacha kesamoyam tzlalu koferet b'mayim adirim Michamocha ba'elim Adonai Mikamocha nedar ba'kodesh Nora tehilot, oh sefer. Let's do that together. Michamocha ba'elim Adonai, Mikamocha nedar ba'kodesh. Nora tehilot, oh sefer. That seems like enough. Let's do the blessing afterward together. 1, 2, 3.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah. Amen. We're going to invite our master Torah lifter now, Nick Serrani, to do your thing. And we'll invite everyone to please rise for just a moment. V'zot haTorah asher sa Moshe lifnei b'nei Yisrael al pi Adonai b'yad Moshe. Anybody who hasn't had an honor yet want to come up and put the belt on the Torah and the yad and stuff? You can't really screw it up. Yai lai 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 lai. Anybody else have time? Eitz Chaim Hi
L'masikim ba v'tomchecha me'ushar derachecha darvei oram v'kol nativotecha shalom hashivenu Adonai Elecha Natua Kadesh Kadesh Avenu Kadesh Avenu Tekadam.
May be seated. That was really fun to have everyone up here. Yeah, how about tomorrow morning and tomorrow afternoon? Anybody want to come and do a couple of bat mitzvahs? We're going to turn back in our service to the Misha Berach Lecholim, the prayer for those who are in need of healing. And certainly Shavuot is a time for us to remember those who perhaps would like to be celebrating with us but aren't well enough to do so. So we're thinking of them and we are sending prayers for their healing. On this Shabbat, we are thinking of healing for Susie Blank, Margie Block, Ron Bragg, John Brada, Bruce Cohn, Dorothy Collins, Ella Dubrow, Luann Jenkins, Bruce Meislish, Minna Melton, Lisa Pena, Ian Phillips, Rashi Pristowski, Stanley Radin, Ralph Sauer, Pam Shear, Randy Spence, Susan Tobin, Ozzie Zimmer, Shelley Zimmerman, and Jessica Rathkoff. I ask if there are other names of folks who we are thinking of for healing this evening. I don't see any online. For all of them and for all those who we are thinking of healing, perhaps just in our hearts, we offer our Misha Berach prayer. You can find that on page 253 or up here on the screen.
Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. We shall imotenu mejor bless those in need of healing with refuah shalema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. And let us say, Amen.
We invite you to please rise for Aleinu. You can find that on page 282 and 87, and we'll join together. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'tet gedula liotzer bereshit, shelo asanu k'goyei ha'aratzot, v'lo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chalkeinu kahem, v'gor aleinu k'chol hamonam, v'anachnu korim v'mishtachavim u'modim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo However brief may be our time on earth, O God, you endow those fleeting days with abiding worth. We recalled our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us. We're thinking of, in just this past week, the recent death of Sandra Jean Friedman. We remember those who died at this season in years past, and we take them into our hearts with our own. On this Shabbat, we are remembering the yahrzeits of Zisselchana bat Yida Rivka, Amy Blumenthal, Ida Borovitz, Mark Chait, Jack Cohn, Carol Ann Davia, Herman Friedberg, Ethel Garfield, Dr. Meryl Susan Goldman, Rose Nill, Helen Kranz, Dr. Larry Kunn, Lenore Loengard, Hilda Luckton, Nancy Markle, Yetta Mart, Leroy S. Matvey, Carol Jean Pavlovsky, Lillian Pies, Joseph Pravda, Sidney Rocker, Arnold Sachs, Jerry Sapadin, Sarah Shiner, Henry Schulte, Mitchell Schifrin, Ethel Solomon, Roberta Waldman, Louis Yalen, and George R. Zahn. I ask if there are others we are thinking of on this Shavuot.
My mother-in-law, Adele Hirsch, tonight is on the list.
Thanks. Thank you. Yeah. Any others who are thinking of? On their behalf and on behalf of all those who have no one to say Kaddish for them, we're going to turn to page 294, or right here on the screen for our Kaddish prayer. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach yirtei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uvyamechon, uv'chayedecho beit Yisrael, b'agala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'lamei almaya, yiparach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudasham b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, Damiran Be'alma V'imru Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya. V'chaim Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen. Osei Shalom B'imromav. Hu Ya'aseh Shalom. Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen. May God send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved among us. And together we say, Amen. You may be seated. And Bobby Kovitz is going to give us some announcements as we launch into summer.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, those of you who are here and those of you at home. Please join us after services in the mezzanine for a traditional post-Shavuot dairy treat. We have cheesecake and all the fun stuff. A couple of things to be mindful of over the course of the next week or two. You know, with next week being the first Shabbat of June, we're shifting into our summer schedule, our summer timing for Shabbat services, 6 p.m. for June, July, and I believe August, right, Rabbi B?
June, July for now.
Okay, June, July for now. We're going to trial it, see how it goes, and it's just to give everyone more flexibility to, you know, either have dinner afterwards, go out, whatever you like to do with your Friday nights. So again, next week, June 2nd, 6 p.m., and that is our camp send-off Shabbat, which will be followed by dinner in the social hall. June 7th is a Wednesday, and at 6:30 on June 7th, we will be having TBS's 2023 annual meeting. It's a time for us to come together as a community, recap the year, and also look forward to 2023-24. And we will have a light nosh that night as well, because we know it's a Wednesday night at 6:30. Lastly, for those of you who aren't in Show Cloud or aren't quite sure what Show Cloud is, that is our new TBS membership portal. We've gotten great feedback from those people who have logged in and set up their Show Cloud accounts, and this is an opportunity for all of you to set up your own TBS membership portal, have access to all of your personal information, billing statements, yard sites, family profiles, all of your information at your fingertips. So if you need help with Show Cloud or have any questions, please be in touch with me, give the office a call. It's going to be especially important over the course of the next couple of weeks as we roll out 2023-24 membership renewal. So if you have any questions about Show Cloud, don't be shy. With that, Shabbat Shalom, and thank you for making TBS your Jewish home. Rabbi?
Shabbat Shalom.
Rabbi, may I add?
Of course.
Thank you.
I can't say no.
I didn't send this information to Bobby yet. On Thursday, June 15th, there's going to be a wonderful concert. Jeff Benatar, a Columbus native. I've been aware of his jazz studies since he was in middle school, and he is a professor in Florida. Where is it, Barry, that he's a professor? Thank you. And there's going to be a free, did you hear that word, free concert. It's going to be Jews and jazz. And we, plus Agudas Sakum and Tifereth Israel and Temple Israel, are all getting together to bring him to our community. It's going to be at 7 o'clock. Is that right, Barry? Yeah. Yeah, at Temple Israel on Broad Street. So there'll be information out there when I give it to Bobby, though. But it's going to be a wonderful concert, and I hope that you can come.
That's great. Okay, and one more plug, since we're plugging a bunch of stuff, and then we'll get to our closing song. You'll notice when you get the window that is just about ready to hit the presses, you'll notice that 4 times during the summer so far, twice in June and twice in July, we're doing a Shabbat morning stroll, which is a new thing that, thanks to the Connie and the Religious Practices Committee, we're going to meet on the temple driveway, and maybe in a little circle area, and do a few Shabbat prayers, and then have a kind of a casual walk. I measured out a trail that's about 1.5 miles. I don't know if that's too long. Maybe we'll dial it back, or maybe we'll add a little more. Well, it'll be a little trial and error to figure it out, but it should be a really nice way to have a little service and then be able to connect with nature and walk around the neighborhoods here and just celebrate that we can be outside and enjoying the summertime.
So that's, check the e-window and the window for all the dates for those, twice in June and twice in July, and maybe into August if people are enjoying them. All right, that's enough plugging of stuff, unless anybody else has any announcements. Okay, Angelo, what do you got?
June 17th.
Oh, right, yes, Pride.
We invite you to march with us, chant with us, support our, what I like to call Alphabet Mafia / Twice West group here, as we support. Usually in years past, we were the only church representation there. So it's June 17th, and we will be marching the Pride Parade. We won't have a float this year, but we might be able to have a car and some signs.
Should people contact you, Ange?
Yes, people should totally contact me. My name is Angelo Dunlap, ADunlap@tbs.org. Yeah, and I will look into the answering rainbow post as well. It needs a little bit of love.
It needs about $1,500 of love.
And time.
Yes. So we can find someone that's interested, that would be great.
Now we're going to plug it.
All right. Yeah, anybody else have announcements? Those are all important ones. Let's join together. Let's join together. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho, v'ahava ratzon, hilanu, zikaron l'maaseh v'reshi, ki hu yom tehillah, l'mikra'ei kodesh, zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim, kivanu v'charta, v'yotanu kidashta, mikol ha'olim, v'shabbat kodshecha, v'ahava uvratzon, hinchaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen. Yeah, that's something. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, ha'motzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. And our closing song is.
Oh, we didn't do
Oh,
that
can we
yet.
do our closing song already?
Oh, no, we didn't.
You let that dare us.
I thought we did.
Right. That is fair. Mrs. Rose is losing it. Okay. All right. Let me go pass it. Can I pass it to you, Mary? Just kind of pass it
May we be blessed as we go on our way. May we be guided in peace. May we be blessed with health and joy. May this be our blessing. Amen. Amen. May this be our blessing. Amen. 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 May this be our blessing. Amen. May we be sheltered by the wings of peace. May we be kept in safety and in love. May grace and compassion find their way to every soul. May this be our blessing.
Amen. Let's all sing together. Amen. Here we go. Ready? Amen. Amen. May this be our blessing. Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach, everyone. Thank you, Mrs. Rose, and to Nate Terry. Beautiful music.
Thank you, Rabbi.